In 1933, a 7-year-old boy named Henry Mollison was in a serious bike accident. Because of the accident, Mollison, better known as HM, received serious brain damage to his medial lobes, including his amygdala and hippocampus. The effects of this event would not only alter the life of HM, but change the field of cognitive psychology forever. Following HM's accident, he experienced epileptic seizures for 20 years to the point that they left him incapacitated for the most part. At the age of 27, he was operated on by William Scoville, a renowned neurosurgeon at Hartford Hospital. In the operation, Scoville removed HM's medial temporal lobes, the region that had been damaged by the accident. Following the surgery, HM's seizures were greatly reduced and he saw substantial health improvements. There was one paramount problem, however. HM had lost his memories from the past decade. Not only that, but he lost his ability to remember things in the short term. He could only remember things for a few minutes before completely forgetting them. He suffered from what is known as anterograde amnesia. HM described his condition, quote, like waking from a dream. Every day is alone in itself. The longitudinal study of HM helps psychologists to understand localization of function, which is the idea that specific parts of the brain are responsible for certain functions exclusive to that region. However, the most relevant finding of HM's study to our exploration is not what HM lost, but rather what he kept. HM could still recall long-term memories, notwithstanding the detriment to his short-term memories. This finding supports the notion that short-term and long-term are distinct parts of memory stored in different regions of the brain. In 1968, researchers Atkinson and Shiffrin proposed one of the first models outlining the various stages in memory, one that could be backed by the findings of HM's case. The model they created was deemed the multi-story memory model. It was a theorized model that was known to be overly simplistic, but was designed to outline the process that memory might take in consolidation. The model consisted of 4 main stages that worked sequentially, starting with environmental input, moving to sensory memory, then short-term memory, and finally feeding into long-term memory. The model focused on repetition being the most critical factor in transferring memory from short-term to long-term. This was known as the rehearsal loop. Although the model did a good job outlining the general process of memory consolidation, many were critical of it being too reductionistic and basic. About 10 years following the conception of the multi-story memory model, Baddeley and Hitch developed the working memory model as an extension to elaborate on the previous model. Baddeley and Hitch challenged the idea that the short-term store is one single store, but instead suggested that it was more complex, consisting of multiple stores. This model is made up of 4 main facets: the central executive, the visuospatial sketchpad, the episodic buffer, and the phonological loop. The central executive is essentially responsible for the distribution of attention between the other subordinate systems. It has a supervisory component that directs attention towards things that are unfamiliar and require more effort, such as decision making. The other is the automatic component, which deals with habit-based actions that require little attention. The visuospatial sketchpad is responsible for visual processing. It aggregates information from sensory memory or long-term memory, allowing us to remember special layouts and visual patterns. The next store is the episodic buffer. This system is where information is temporarily displayed so that it can be processed as needed. It combines audio, visual, and long-term memory into one interpretable block that allows us to be consciously aware. The final system is the phonological loop, the auditory aspect of the model. It has 2 main parts: the articulatory control system and the phonological store. The prior is also known as the inner voice, which holds verbal information that can be rehearsed internally. The phonological store's primary function is to receive and keep auditory traces from long-term memory and the articulatory control system. The working memory model helped psychologists to conceptualize memory as a process, similarly to the multi-story memory model, but this model provided greater depth into the short-term component of the original model. 30 years after the development of the working memory model, psychology professors Landry and Bartling would conduct a study in 2011 reinforcing the concept that the model proposed. Landry and Bartling's experiment aimed to test the working memory model by using what is known as articulatory suppression. In the experiment, they aimed to investigate if articulatory suppression would influence recall of a written list of phonologically dissimilar letters in serial recall. The control group was shown a list of these letters for 5 seconds, then asked to wait another 5 seconds before writing down what they could remember. The experimental group was tasked to repeat the numbers 1 and 2 while simultaneously trying to memorize the same list of letters. This was the aspect of articulatory suppression. They found that those who underwent the articulatory suppression had much lower recall rates than those in the control group. The accurate recall percentage in the control group was 76% compared to 45% in the experimental group. These findings supported the premise of Baddeley and Hitch's working memory model because they proposed that the phonological loop system was limited in capacity. The results reflected the idea and showed that multitasking can be done better when the tasks rely on the different memory stores, such as visuospatial and auditory tasks. The modeling of memory is something that has been developing for over 100 years, with its earliest evidence emerging from H.M.'s case, going all the way to modern studies such as Landry and Bartling. These memory models have helped psychologists in visualizing the process that memories go through and will continue to do so for the foreseeable future.